artists. I hope y'all having a productive week. I got something special for y'all. I'm gonna show you guys how I mixed KingLilG's vocals in the song Bangin. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out on YouTube. Bangin, Young Drummer Boy featuring KingLilG. Go listen to it on Spotify. Go listen to it on Apple Music, anywhere you listen to music. I'm gonna get into depth on how I mix his vocal, show y'all a little behind the scenes of what I did. And if you guys are liking what I'm putting out, go drop a like on it. Go put a comment on it, let me know, and I'll put a lot more videos out with different artists that I'm working with, and I'll show y'all some inside tricks of what I'm doing. All right, peace. This is the session right here. Let's take a listen to it with everything on, and then we'll go from there. We'll break it down just like last time, and I'll show you the process of why I did certain things, and let's listen to it.
Just me and my gang.
Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date. Young drummers in this bitch, I'm with the gunplay. If you trippin' in this bitch, you better drop, ho. Weed smoke, bass coming from the Tahoe. And my youngins, they don't play with the bullshit. Pay attention, little homie, this the blueprint. Gang signs, all sides, better toss it up. Represent your neighborhood, we never lock it up.
Bang.
Young drummer, what up?
Dope. Yeah, so that's the final product. I don't know if you guys heard it, but if you haven't, go check it out. So the process of mixing this was, I think this was like my third time mixing G, and actually my first time mixing G. And I went through a couple revisions back and forth with him just to get his vocals right. The biggest thing we were working on was making sure his vocal was louder than the song, and it's it was a little bit more loud than usual that I usually mix records. So we were just going back and forth, but as you could hear, I mean, it's crisp, it's loud, it's clear. There's a little bit more reverb than I usually put, but I love the way it sounds with the reverb that I added on there. It's pretty basic, as I'll show it to you, but it's just little things. You don't gotta go too crazy with it. You don't gotta think too hard. A lot of people overcomplicate mixing, when I feel like the process is just taking it a step back and looking at the overall song. And once you learn techniques, you can pinpoint which techniques to use at certain times to get the result that you're trying to achieve. If you guys are new to mixing, if you're an artist trying to mix your own stuff to get things out like that, just study certain techniques, and they might not make sense as a whole at the beginning, but the more you learn those techniques and you start using them, and they become like muscle memory, then later on, as you start mixing your stuff or recording your stuff, you can revert back to those techniques that you learned, and you can apply them to certain times and certain parts of your vocal to give you the result that you want. So let's listen to it raw with no plugins on it. So right here, I got two lead buses, right? So one of them is drums. This is the verse lead is drums, and this one's G. The plugins are the same, guys. Every vocal that I mix has the same plugins on it, but I use them differently to get the same result, but I use different tactics each plugin. That's because each vocal is going to be different. I said this in the last video. Each vocal is going to be different, even if it's the same artist and the same person. So you always have to go in there, and you always have to tweak things differently from the last song. You're trying to get the same result as far as clarity, as far as taking out the muddiness, as far as making the vocal present, giving it body. But the takes are always going to be different. Even if you're in the same session and doing the same song, and the artist is doing different takes, those takes are going to be different from one another. So you got to mix differently. So this right here is drums. I'm gonna inactivate this one. So this is drum stuff right here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take everything off of G's vocal, just how I received it. So I'm gonna take these reverbs off too. All right, so let's listen to it soloed, and we'll hear, and we'll take a listen to hear how I received the song, the vocals.
In these cases, bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date. Young drummers in this bitch, I'm with the gunplate. If you trippin' in this bitch, you better drop, ho. Weed smoke bass coming from the Tahoe. And my youngins, they don't play with the bullshit. Pay attention, lil' homie, this the blueprint. Gang signs, all sides, better toss it up. Represent your neighborhood, we never lock it up.
All right, so I think yeah. So as you guys could see, that's how I received it. So straight off the bat, I could tell that it has some reverb on there. I could tell it's been EQ'd a little bit by the recording engineer. I could tell that it has some compression on it. So I got to keep those things in mind when I'm mixing it because if I over compress, you could hear it a lot more. And I just got to roll with the punches with it. It sounds good as it is. So my thing is just to match it with drums vocals, which I recorded here at my studio, and kind of the thing is making these mesh together. So they were done in separate studios at different times, but the goal is to make them sound like they're both in the same room in the same session, and so I gotta understand that and keep that in the back of my head while I'm mixing this track. So let's go through the first thing that I did. I so the first thing I did is I put an EQ on it. So I don't have the lo-fi on this time. I was using the exciter. It's super subtle. So we'll skip that. If you want to know how I have my settings for lo-fi, I have the lo-fi always on the first plugin. You can go back to my last video and check it out. Um, so we'll start with the EQ. Let's see what I got right here. Okay, so I am rolling out. I'm pulling down 227 hertz. That's for that low end, and then I got 300. So a lot of the low mids I'm taking out. Right. Let's hear it.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley.
So okay, so I'm bringing down like 4 dB of volume on the low mids. So and then I have a small Q12 dBq at 2K. So that's gonna take out a little bit. The reason I did that was for the sibilance. So I have that on here. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so here's a Fairchild. So Fairchild, I love this plugin. I didn't put it in my last video because I haven't used it, but I switch from Fairchild to the LA2A. Before I was using the RVox, so recently I just started using the RVox, but before that I was using the Fairchild to achieve that in your face feel, or if the vocal was really like compressed already or it was already like very energetic, then I would use the LA2A to kind of just tame it. It's more transparent. So if you want transparency, use the LA2A or the CLA2A. But if you want more grittiness, if you want more in your face, then you just turn on the Fairchild. You don't even have to touch any of the settings, and that it sounds just right up in your face. So I wanted to achieve more in your face because after we had gone back and forth, he says he wants it more powerful. So I automatically I had the LA2A before that, so I went to the Fairchild after. So let's hear it with the Fairchild and see what I got right here.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B.
Yeah, so I'm running around 3 dB of gain reduction, and then all I'm doing is just level matching it again, guys. So let's hear it without it. Let's bring it out and then put it back in.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie.
And this is what they did.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date. Young drummers in this bitch, I'm with the gunplate. If you trippin' in this bitch, you better drop, ho.
Yeah, so if you could hear the difference if with it on and off, when it's on, you just get more presence, a little bit more body, and if you don't adjust the output, it's gonna make it louder. But you just gotta gain match those after you have everything that you've done to it. Gain match it back to where you're at. We have to have a good gain structure when we're doing stuff like this. All right, so after that, I know for a fact I went to the fresh air. That's just how I work. I mix into the fresh air after I EQ it and compress it a little bit. It sometimes it depends. For the most part, that's how I work through this. So for mid air, I got five, and for the high air, I got two. So it's super light, super light. This one didn't need it. His vocals are already sounding pretty crisp, and his vocals, I'm pretty sure he might be using like the Sony uh, mic, or he's using something with a lot of presence, or the way the recording engineer sent it. He EQ'd it with boosting on the high end. So I didn't really have to do this. If you compare these settings to my last settings, the last vocal that I recorded here with G and drum, I'm bringing this up, to 20% maybe. But that's just because I have my mic, my room, all these things are different. So we got to adjust. Again, that's why we have to go through every single plugin and adjust how we're doing things. It's not just a template, slap it on there and call it a mix. We got to take this craft and mold these vocals to sound great. Even if they sound good, when you get them, our talent and our focus is to make these vocals sound great. So let's hear it with it on.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date. Young drummers in this bitch, I'm with the gunplay. If you tripping in this bitch, you better drop, ho. We
Yeah, so it's doing a little bit of the shine, a little bit of the high mids right here, just a little bit, not too much. You could really overkill this thing. That's like if I
in these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date. Young drummers in this bitch, I'm with the gunplay. If you trip
Yeah, you see, so if you could overkill this plugin, you got to be real careful and make sure that you're listening carefully when you're using this plugin, the Fresh Air, because it is subtle and it's very transparent, but you can crank it up and you can overkill it. So just pay attention to what you're doing, listen, use your ears at all times. All right, so let's go to the next one. I know I went to the C6s. The C6s, I'm rolling out 127 and like 4K.
in these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date.
So that's that C6. I'm bringing out 130 and 4K. It's just kind of like a safety net. It's just those frequencies. I know I EQ them out with a dynamic EQ with the kerchief, but this is just to get a little bit more after the compressor, just to get a little bit more. And then we'll go to the C6, the next C6. And right here on the low end, I'm around 300 and the high end at 15K. So I already know for a fact I'm trying to get the sibilances out. I know I have some de-essers on his vocal on his actual channel. So let's hear it with it on.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's.
And let's listen to it without it and then back on.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date. Young
Yeah, so you could see that I'm going pretty heavy on this, especially on the 15K, because with the compressor, it added more of that top end shine. And I just wanted to bring it down. Like you could hear it on the T's and the S's, you could hear a lot of that. And with the de-esser is going to really, really help you out. All right, so then we'll go to the multiband, the Fab Filter multiband. Again, this is where I do a lot of my heavy lifting, a lot of like body shaping of the vocal. These the EQ and the C6s and the fresh air, those are just, subtle, tiny movements. This right here is where I kind of get the shape that I want. So let's hear it.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date. Young drummers in this bitch, I'm with the gunplay. If you trippin' in this bitch, you better drop, ho. Weed smoke bass coming from the Tahoe.
Okay, so yeah, so on all these four bands, I'm doing around -6 dB of compression. But again, the reason, like I talked in my last video, if you haven't checked out how I mix Young Drummer Boy's vocals on Gangster Function, go check it out. I'll give some depth, some information on how I'm going through these plugins again. Here I'm giving you some more information, but this plugin is going to really shape the sound. And what it does is I'm EQing certain parts of the vocal, certain frequencies of the vocal at different times, and it makes it more dynamic. It gives the song more movement rather than just using an EQ and cutting out at 500k at 500 hertz. You know, that means it's that vocal, that frequency is gone that whole song, and certain parts of the instruments or certain parts of the drums could lack that in certain sections, and you might need that in the vocal. So what I do with with the multiband is I'm bringing it out when it reaches a threshold, and then it stays in there when it's subtle. When it's subtle, so so I have these four bands, and I'm dropping around -6 dB, the low mids, high mids, highs, and lows. So let's hear it without it, and then we'll hear it with it back in.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date. Young drummers in this bitch, I'm with the gunplay. If you trippin' in this bitch, you better drop, ho. Weed smoke bass coming from the Tahoe. And my youngins, they don't play with the bullshit. Pay attention, lil' homie, this the blueprint. Gang signs, all sides, better toss it up. Represent your neighborhood, we never lock it up.
Yeah. So that just levels everything out, gives it a more radio quality feel. So that's that, and then the de-essers. Let's go to the de-essers. Let's see what I got here. So I'm using the FabFilter Pro DS. I love this thing. It has oversampling. Oversampling. If your plugin offers oversampling, guys, use it every single time if your machine can handle it. It's better processing. So let's see. Let's check it out.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B.
Yeah, so I'm bringing down like 4 dB of like the S's, the T's. I'm honing in. That's where I'm at right there. I think the way I use this is I hit this little headphone thing. Let's see if it tells me what this is. Yeah, audition triggering button. You can hear which part of the audio Pro DS is triggering. So this is what controls the threshold and the range. So you're gonna hear what
In these cases.
yeah. So you could hear these parts that getting triggered to bring down that frequency. And then I throw on the audition so I could hear.
Hoes let me fuck on a first date.
So I could hear what's actually being compressed at the same time.
In these cases. This Bentley, we don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date. Young drummers in this bitch, I'm with the gunplay. If you trippin' in this bitch, you better.
Yeah, so there's that. And then the last thing is he wanted a little bit more reverb on his vocal. So what I did was I threw on good old Maniverb. Maniverb. I have the dry wet 0.8 0.8, super subtle. I have it on the Hall medium. I think it's default. He just needed a little bit. This reverb right here, I love it for when I'm doing recording sessions and I'm giving like a reference mix to an artist. It just sounds good right out the box. So I'll throw this on, and I'll throw some what else do I put? The Verb Suite from Slate Audio. That's good too. Let's hear with this.
In these cases. Bitch, I just called a fuck, you can never change me. Pulling on that trigger till that motherfucker empty. Bitches busted open in the back of this Bentley. We don't talk about it, homie, you know what it's at, B. Hoes let me fuck on a first date.
Yeah, so that right there, that's how I mixed KingLilG's vocals on Bangin. featuring Young Drummer Boy. If you guys haven't checked it out, go check it out now. You can listen to it on Spotify, on Apple. Go watch the video. That video is crazy. Bangin, out on YouTube. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to hit me up. If you guys need help with anything regarding recording and mixing, beat making, hit me up. Shoot me a DM, shoot me an email. You can visit my website, 100,626.com. I got beats on there. I'm going to start offering mixing services on there so you could book me straight from the website. But if you guys want me to continue to put videos out like this, let me know in the comments. I got a bunch more other artists that I could show you how I mix their vocals. But yeah, let's just stay positive, keep working at your goal, and let's run it, man. Peace.